What's going on, everyone? This is Ace, and this video right here has been a long time coming. Man, I've been really trying to get, a lot of thought and trying really hard to find a kind of a great starting point, to crack open the chaos, coffin, and just really overall the Lady Death universe is what I'd call it. And, while I had several ideas, this right here is Evil Ernie, the Resurrection. The Resurrection, I think, would be a good starting point as well, just because there's also several characters that get mentioned here, not only that are super important to Evil Ernie's story, but then also would spin off and become kind of predominant characters within the Chaos universe as well. And yeah, so this is where we will begin, and I just want to thank you all for watching. Evil Ernie is a undead teenage psychopath who has the ability to reanimate and control the dead. The Resurrection is a heartwarming tale of Evil Ernie's return. What he does for the ravishing Lady Death. Some guys will do anything for love. Let that be kind of like a little teaser for you guys as we get ready for this, and with that, we will begin. But as always, if the likes of Lady Death, Purgatory, Cremator, and yes, of course, Evil Ernie interest you, then don't forget to hit that like button, and definitely don't forget to subscribe. It definitely helps us out a lot. One thing I should say, I just want to warn all the curious newcomers that are like completely not in the loop, or this is their first introduction, not to be too dramatic, but this universe, these stories, they definitely can be enjoyed. They do have a lot of fun within them. But honestly, the Lady Death universe spawns from a place of chaos, and pun very much intended. I mean, there is violence and overall the strength to go down on your own path, even if you literally have to fight through heaven and hell to continue down it. This is not a universe of superheroes, but simply beings who struggle. To begin, Evil Ernie is dead. And I don't mean like undead, like he always is, but dead. Or at least to where he was weakened enough and no longer active in the physical world that you and I live in. That's how this story begins. Now, with a name like the Resurrection, I'm sure you know he won't be staying dead for very much longer. And speaking of which, on the very first page, we are immediately thrusted into the onslaught and terror created by Evil Ernie. This is the Resurrection. So as you just saw, this was footage that occurred from Evil Ernie's first story, Youth Gone Wild, where evil laid waste to hundreds of lives and caused mass destruction around the New Jersey area. All for love, all for Lady Death. We are currently in the aftermath of those events, and in this very courtroom there are several important characters in Evil Ernie's story, and they would go on to play major parts throughout the Chaos and/or Lady Death universe. The world wants answers, and someone to hold responsible for the chaos that happened. The two names being held responsible are Dr. Mary Young and Dr. Leonard Price. Now, Dr. Leonard Price was head of Clearview Mental Institution, and his most popular patient there was Ernest Fairchild, aka Evil Ernie. While under his care, Dr. Leonard was the first to experiment on Evil when he was just a young boy, and it was during this initial experiment that would trigger the initial mind link between Evil and Lady Death. He would also find out that Evil had certain telepathic abilities. These abilities only increased the severe abuse and torture he would receive from his monstrous parents.
Did I just catch you on the beat?
Eventually, Evil would be fed up and along with murdering his parents, he would also murder several residents within the neighborhood. This would cause Ernest Fairchild to be locked up at Clearview Mental Institution. But as the years went by, Dr. Leonard Price began to grow more and more cynical with Evil's case, and he had very little patience or remorse for him. At any point, he wouldn't hesitate to kill him if he felt it was needed. It would appear that any form of redemption was lost in the opinion of Dr. Price, possibly out of fear, but deep down he believed the only way to cure him would be to get rid of him. As the court proceedings continue, Price becomes more and more infuriated and violent, and is eventually escorted out by security. Due to these outbreaks and the ruckus caused, court will eventually continue the next day. Now, standing next to Dr. Price was Dr. Mary Young, the other one that is on trial and being held responsible for the murders that happened not too long ago. Dr. Mary Young was a promising upcoming doctor who experimented and did research with a technology called neurotech. The idea was to go into the mind of Evil Ernie and completely erase the urge to kill. Backed by the state, she was given the okay to proceed. But as you can imagine, when the experiment was done, everything went horrifically wrong, eventually leading to Ernest Fairchild's death. Now, on the other side of the court, the last other important character in this story would be Commissioner Thomas Stone. Sitting on the other end of the courtroom, him and his lawyers are trying to clear his own name from this whole mess and wanting to pin it on the two doctors. For you see, Stone was not only the one who gave Mary the okay and the funding to experiment on Ernest Fairchild, but he also ignored all the warnings that were given to him by Dr. Price. His aspirations for having his name be known as someone who could be the next up-and-coming genius who cured murderous tendencies, but also saw it as a lucrative money-making opportunity that he could not pass up. It was a gamble that cost the lives of hundreds. The three of them did survive the massacre that occurred, which is now referred to as the Psycho Plague. The two doctors ultimately being the ones responsible for destroying Evil Ernie. And then there is Commissioner Stone, who, due to stabbing himself with Evil Ernie's button when he picked it up from the destruction, he now hosts the spirit and/or conscience of the Evil One within his very mind. And it's here where we venture to next, into the mind of Commissioner Stone, where the defeated Evil One lies within the endless graveyard, and the overbearing shadow of the ever-dark fortress of the unforgettable Lady Death. Now, how I would best describe what is happening within Commissioner Stone's mind is that since the Evil One's consciousness is inside of him, it's almost serving as a link into the afterlife, and in this case more specifically to the Endless Graveyard. Essentially what you need to know is that the Endless Graveyard is the domain and territory that is ruled and conquered by Lady Death. This would be the territory that she would gain after defeating Lucifer so many years ago in the battle for Hell. Since the Evil One's demise, Lady Death has been searching her endless graveyard looking for him, until finally he emerges. He is weakened in his current state though, and Lady Death sends her forces to retrieve him. Once spotted, she rushes to his aid, and for a moment loses all hope, for she is saddened by the one person who has allowed her to feel in a way she has not felt for so long. This is also an end to her plans for Megadeth and for her hope to return to Earth. And then as tears of blood awaken Evil Ernie, he managed to utter one word: love. Ecstatic that he is still intact, she rushes him back to her castle to heal him and give Evil what he needs to regain his strength. In, shall we say, more ways than one. Now, while the fireworks are going off in the Endless Graveyard, Stone, in the real world, is freaking out. Alone in his hotel room, he is rapidly losing touch with reality, and no matter how much he tries to act normal, he can't help but shake with fear. Now again, my thoughts on this, or at least what's occurring, is the human brain cannot be exposed to the afterlife for extensive periods of time. More than likely, with the Evil One's presence being attached to him, and then with the link to Lady Death's domain, it's more than likely causing Stone's mind to pretty much erode. Just speculating, but that might be very well be the case of why he's feeling the way he is. Suddenly though, there is a knock at the door. It's Dr. Price, and he seems to be concerned with Stone's behavior and asks if he's okay. Stone replies that things are alright, and then is shoved against the wall with Price's shotgun in his face. Dr. Price says he knows that Stone is sick, and he has a feeling it's related to Evil Ernie. He says the very second things seem to be going worse, he won't hesitate to blast him, and then he leaves the room. Stone has a feeling that he may be right, and then collapses to the floor. We are then taken back to the Endless Graveyard with a new and improved Evil Ernie, who is greeted by Lady Death. She is thrilled and ready to begin Megadeth once more. However, the problem is that Evil Ernie is now trapped within Stone's body, as Evil Ernie can control the dead, but not the living. However, he has a plan to return, a plan for Megadeth to begin again, a plan to resurrect. All he says to Lady Death is that Stone must die. And we're back. So at this time, Evil Ernie and Lady Death have honestly just been enjoying each other's company, it looks like. Really, I mean, spending time together, but she is growing more and more curious on how Evil Ernie plans to return to the land of the living and start up Megadeth once again. She laughs and shows endearment to his thoughts of killing the President of the United States, but then asks once more what he plans to do. He abruptly cuts her off and says that he must call his friends. He must gather the dead ones. Now, back in court, it's the following day. In fact, actually, it's Halloween, and Dr. Mary Young is called to the stand. She is pressed hard on why the machine failed, and why Ernest Fairchild was chosen. She admits that he was the most infamous serial killer in the area, but that also she confesses she grew up in the same neighborhood as him. She knew, like the rest of the neighborhood, how his parents abused him, and how no one ever stood up or said anything, due to the parents owning a mill that provided most of the jobs within the area, and fear of being let go. In some way, she felt by curing him, she could do right by him, or at least clear her conscience. The prosecution continues to put the pressure on Mary, until eventually she breaks down. But on the other side of things, no one has paid attention to Commissioner Stone, who is also somewhat breaking down. His manic episodes are increasing, even more so than before. He is approaching his breaking point. He can see his flesh start to boil. He begins to sweat and shake. He can feel his sanity slipping away and his urge to kill increase every second. He is absolutely terrified at what he is feeling. See, currently in Stone's mind, Ernie is calling all the dead ones that reside in Lady Death's domain to come out and play, to scream, to holler, cry, wail, to let Stone know of their presence. He asks Lady Death to create a magnificent storm, and she happily obliges. The evil one cries out to Stone, "Stone, Evil Ernie is calling you." Back in court, Stone is mentally being destroyed. He can no longer make clear sentences. He's mumbling, shouting out spurts of gibberish uncontrollably. The courtroom is filled with a sense of confusion and uneasiness. Green pus begins to leak out from Stone. His eyes craze, and he can no longer be rid of the laughing, smiling faces that torment him, laughing at him. His physical body becomes less responsive. Evil Ernie is able to start speaking through him. Stone has, in a matter of minutes, become a prisoner of his own mind. The court begins to erupt in a panic, and Mary, horrified, starts to understand what she is witnessing before her very eyes. But before she can critically think of what to do, the entrance door busts open. Leonard Price barges in with a shotgun in hand, for you see, he realizes what's happening too, and he won't allow it. He's going to murder Stone and make sure that Ernie can never return. Lady Death finally realizes what the Evil One was planning all along. She bids him farewell for now and reminds him that he is the leader of the dead. Mary tries to stop Leonard, and Stone, trapped within his own body, is terrified as he sees his death quickly approaching, and he can do nothing about it. Leonard Price fires. Killing Stone in the courtroom, Price is apprehended, and everyone turns to look at Stone's corpse on the floor, and his body begins to change. The room is filled with laughter coming from the corpse. Everyone that hears it begins to turn pale, as they too realize the nightmare has started all over again. Evil Ernie stands up and turns to Dr. Price and says he knew he could count on him. "It feels so good to be undead again. Miss me?" Dr. Price's jaw drops open in utter horror of what he's looking at. He doesn't understand. He can't hear Mary shouting at him that he was a fool the whole time. She knows Ernie can't control the living, only the dead. Dr. Leonard Price, you have caused Evil Ernie's resurrection. And with that, this will conclude part 1 of Evil Ernie, the Resurrection. Again, I hope you guys are enjoying the story so far. Evil's back. He has returned to the land of the living. And so for part 2, be on the lookout for that. I will definitely try not to keep you guys waiting too much longer. And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for checking out the video. And yeah, if you'd like to know about any other characters, more about Lady Death, I know, trust me, she has an origin story, and I will definitely be planning on doing a 3-part video on that in the future, so you can definitely be looking out for that. And yeah, let's really try to get this Chaos universe going, this Lady Death universe going. I really enjoy these stories, these characters, and they're some of my favorites in comics. You know, they're kind of the reason why I got into comics. So with that, want to say thank you again for watching, and yeah, be on the lookout for more, and I will catch you guys in the next one. All right, take care.